South Jersey's home of the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
I am the voice of the voiceless.
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
What a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Josh Hennig here on a Monday after the Eagles won. I didn't see that coming. But nobody saw them running that much either. So, listen, if you're someone who thought the Eagles were going to win and you thought they're going to, win by like that, I recommend you go to Vegas or Atlantic City immediately until your good luck runs out because, wow. So we had a game to talk about yesterday. Also, Sixers back in action tonight. No Joel Embiid on the floor. We'll get into that as well coming up here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Chris Franklin from NJ.com will join us. Covers the Eagles and the Sixers for NJ.com. He'll give us some insight as he's still waiting to come back from Detroit. He was there for the Eagles win. So we'll get some insights from him about the Eagles win and his perspective on this Embiid stuff. So we will get to him as well. And as always, you can join the conversation. Priority messaging through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Thanks to First Bank of Sea Isle City. Download the app, get in on all the action, all the latest news on the Eagles, Sixers, Flyers, and high school sports. Speaking of high school sports, the playoff matchups are up there at 97.3 ESPN.com, 97.3 ESPN mobile app. I got to tell you guys, some interesting matchups in the South Jersey high school football playoffs. You want the full details, go to 97.3 ESPN.com or 97.3 ESPN mobile app. But right now, you can get a hold of the show as we are reacting to the Eagles win and getting you ready for the Sixers tonight. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. right here on your home for Eagles, Sixers, and Flyers in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN. I'll get to the Joel Embiid stuff in just a bit because I understand that is a topic that is definitely an eyebrow raiser as well. But I got to tell you guys, I am still trying to wrap my head around this stuff with the Eagles because never did I expect this team to do what it did yesterday. I tweeted this out yesterday. I'm not sure what's more surprising with the Eagles win. The fact that they had 236 rushing yards in 37 attempts by the running backs, or the fact they only had 2 penalties in the entire game. The Lions, by the way, committed 8 penalties. So the Eagles went from a team that keeps shooting themselves in the foot, refuse to run the ball, ask the quarterback to do everything, to now being an offense that asks the quarterback to just sit back and relax, and they just stop committing penalties altogether. I don't know what happened, but whatever happened this past week, Nick Sirianni needs to bottle it up, put it in a nice little package, and just deliver it from now on. I have no idea how this game happened this way. I have no idea how on earth this team went out there and did what they did, but it happened. I would hope that Sirianni learns from this game. I can only hope that the Eagles can take what they did on Sunday and run with it. Now, listen, maybe there is something to the fact that the Eagles went out there and won a game where they didn't ask their quarterback to do it all. In a league where 4 quarterbacks who were first-round picks lost to quarterbacks who were not first-round picks on Sunday, I think this only proves more and more that we as a football culture have to stop obsessing over the QB position the way we do. Football is a team sport. And the Eagles win over the Lions The 49ers win over the Bears. The Jets win over the Bengals. And the Seahawks win over the Jags. Prove that if you have the better roster and you have the better talent on the field, and if you have better coaching, you can win football games in the NFL. Listen, I'm not saying that if you have a chance to get a great quarterback like an Aaron Rodgers, you shouldn't go get him. But I think that we overestimate the difference between these quarterbacks. I think most teams, like the Giants and the Washington football team, would love to have Joe Burrows on their football team. I think most teams look at Jimmy Garoppolo and say, he's definitely an upgrade over Sam Darnold, and he's definitely an upgrade over Kirk Cousins, right? I don't think that there's a huge difference once you get past the top tier. And when you saw the Eagles run for 236 rushing yards yesterday, that only validated that perspective. Look, we live in a world where everybody wants to compare quarterbacks, everyone wants to analyze it, everyone wants to break it down. And I totally get that. I'm just as guilty as anyone. But yesterday, Jalen Hurts was not asked to save Nick Sirianni. He was not asked to go out there and win the game. Frankly, Hurts doesn't do much of anything except for do what he usually does, which is don't mess up. Look what happened in the Colts game yesterday. Carson Wentz had 2 interceptions. One of them was an abomination, and the other one I'm so scratching my head about. And the Colts lost in a game where the Titans lost their most important player, Derrick Henry, because Carson Wentz couldn't get out of his own way. Last night on Sunday Night Football, Cooper Rush kept the Cowboys in the game, fed Amari Cooper, and Dallas won over a Vikings team that frankly didn't look very well prepared for that game last night. So don't tell me about quarterbacks unless you're going to factor in the team that they're on. Sometimes the players around the quarterback and the coach is more important than the quarterback. Not in every case, but in many cases. And after watching the games yesterday, I'm thoroughly convinced that the football is still a team sport. And if the Eagles can bottle up that running attack that they had yesterday and bring that with them against a Chargers team that has one of the worst run defenses in the NFL, you have a chance to win. Now, will Sirianni do it? Time will tell. Sirianni is not a consistent game plan on offense from week to week all season. It feels like every week is a different spin of the wheel, a different, roulette ball spinning around the craps table. Like it just doesn't feel like, it doesn't feel like the guy is very consistent from week to week with anything. But what I do know is at least I saw something that gives you a little hope that Sirianni is willing to learn from his mistakes. Just like Jonathan Gannon went out there and said, Eric Wilson, you're inactive. I don't care that we used to work together. I don't care we were in Minnesota together. I don't care that Howie Roseman signed this guy in the offseason. We are making him inactive, and I'm going to run with these guys. And TJ Edwards looked like a man on a mission. He was incredible yesterday. And Davion Taylor looked like he has grown as a linebacker. They said, Alex Singleton, we're cutting down your snaps. We're just limiting you. In fact, Alex Singleton and Sean Bradley almost played the same number of snaps on defense yesterday. So Gannon is saying, if I'm going to run a certain defense and I'm going to maximize the players on the field, I have to run with certain guys. And you finally saw Josh Sweat being allowed to go get the quarterback. And you saw what happened yesterday. You finally got to see the defense stay aggressive. I said at halftime, I tweeted on Twitter, I'm like, if the defense can stay aggressive and not passive, they can win this game. And boy, did they stay aggressive. Now, will Gannon do that next week? I have no idea. Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of CLC. You could DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app for free. You also can text in at 609-403-0973. And we are live as always on YouTube and Twitter at 973 ESPN. Chris Franklin from NJ.com will join us coming up about 10 minutes from now. Sixers back in action tonight at 7 p.m. here on 97.3 ESPN. And as I wrote about over at 97.3 ESPN.com, Joel Embiid is not going to play. And the Ramona Shelburne report on this, to me, brings a lot of clarity. All right. And the gist of what she reported, you can see the whole report at 97.3 ESPN.com and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. But the gist of it is, and Doc Rivers confirmed this when he spoke to the media today, this was a scheduled rest day. That there's no real concerns about Embiid's knee, but the idea is you let him rest today and they get the double back-to-backs coming up. All right. I'm not reading too much into Embiid sitting. I'm really not. I think this is about the Sixers protecting Embiid from himself. Embiid has a history of trying to play through things. And if you're the 76ers organization, you have to protect your 27-year-old superstar from himself. Because the only way this organization has a chance in its current iteration to win a championship is with Joel Embiid on the floor. The 76ers have 6 games over the first 9 days of this month, including 2 sets of back-to-back games. So if I'm the Sixers, I wouldn't be surprised if Embiid, if you plan to sit him 2 games at minimum, all right? They could even rest him on Thursday. They could rest him next Monday. Whatever it is, I can totally see him missing not just today's game, but at least one more game in this stretch of games. Because realistically, Joel Embiid's health and his durability is way more important than anything at this point. And after this stretch of 6 games and 9 days, you don't have any more back-to-backs until December 8th and 9th. So if you just got to get through this short stretch here, it makes a lot of sense to sustain and keep Embiid fresh beyond that. That's kind of how I look at it. I think that this is about protecting Embiid. And as Ramona Shelburne reported from ESPN, and I'll read you the quote here. She says, quote, "The idea is that Embiid is he lost out on the MVP last year because he did not play quite enough games and doesn't want to do that again this year. There's a sense that maybe he should sit a game or two to get that knee right because it's a meniscus injury that flared up after knocking knees with Jonas Valanciunas," unquote. So at the end of the day, the Sixers are trying to be cautious with Embiid. Embiid wants to play. He wants to be on the floor. He wants to show leadership. He wants to show that he's out there for his teammates. But the Sixers got to protect him from himself. So that's why Embiid's not playing tonight. It's very simple to me. I don't think that a lot of this is worthy of getting up in arms about. I think it's actually smart by the 76ers. Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM. Tonight, Sixers basketball at 7 p.m. on 97.3 ESPN FM. We'll get more into the Eagles and Sixers on the other side. Chris Franklin from NJ.com will join us coming up next right here. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night.
Kevin Harlan from Monday Night Football on Westwood One with a preview of the Giants at the Kansas City Chiefs. Daniel Jones and the Giants are coming off an impressive win last week over the Panthers, while Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs look for a way back to championship-level football. Join Hall of Famer Kurt Warner and me for all the action from Arrowhead on Monday Night Football.
Listen to Monday Night Football on 97.3 ESPN. Coverage begins after Sixers basketball.
Sportsbook in Bally's Hotel and Casino, Atlantic City. It's time to get in on all the games you love. Experience sports betting done right with live streaming games, food and beverage, self-service betting kiosks, and more. Get your game face on and score big this weekend when you bet at FanDuel Sportsbook in Bally's off the boardwalk, Atlantic City. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Josh Hennig back here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. We'll get to your messages in just a bit. So Dan, EHT, and others, we'll get to you guys in just a little bit here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Before we get to any of you guys, Chris Franklin, NJ.com, Eagles beat writer, also covers the 76ers for NJ.com, joins us right now live from the airport. He decided to take some time away from, well, waiting at the airport to jump on with us today on 97.3 ESPN. Chris, how's it going?
Not too bad, man. I'm trying to get used to Wayne County and see what's here, which is basically just plains and nothingness. But yeah, not too bad.
Well, you had a seat to see the Eagles do something that nobody expected, which was 236 rushing yards, 37 rush attempts by running backs, and basically Sirianni took a page out of every Eagle fan's dream playbook.
Yeah, I was a bunch of us were shocked in the press box. We were looking at one another because there was some stuff we didn't see. The jet sweeps, the constant use of motion and running, it was a shock, and it was something that was long overdue with this team. I mean, the Eagles, actually, the offensive line has been taking absorbing a lot of the pressure from defensive lines over time. And it was actually nice to see them actually be the aggressors for once, and it proved to be worth it. I mean, that running game looks like it's sustainable to help them build an identity in a sense for the rest of the season.
Now, Chris, my problem with what you just said, though, is this. I haven't seen Sirianni do the same thing in consecutive weeks all year. So are we really sure that Sirianni is actually going to look at this game and be like, hey, I can do that again?
Well, I think probably for at least one more week, because you have the Chargers coming in and their run defense surprisingly is worse than the Lions. So you may see it a little bit. I think if they continue to have success the way they did yesterday, and they do it again against the Chargers, and his players are starting to buy into it, thinking, you know what, we can be this physical team, and it sets up other aspects of our offense, I think you can see it a little bit more and more. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think we're going to see the days of 50 runs and maybe about 10, 11 passes like we saw yesterday, but I think you can see it incorporated more and more as the season goes along.
When you listen to what Sirianni said after the game yesterday and what he has said in the week leading up, do you think that he understands the fact that if you have something, you don't try to fix something that's not broken? Because the part of me that feels like from the Falcons to the 49ers game, okay, or all the games after the Chiefs game, it seems like he has something that works, and then he tries to get, they try to be the smartest guy in the room. He tries to outthink the other team. Do you think Sirianni's finally learning that, hey man, this is the NFL. Don't fix what's not broken?
I think it's more of a feel thing. I think a little bit, you look from week to week, I think he's trying to see what the players he has going on. And you can't forget, he's still a very young coach, head coach and play caller. He's still a neophyte as a play caller. So I think he's still trying to get used to the rhythm of things. I think he's still trying to see all the pieces that he can have that are going along with that. I think he's finally learning that, hey, you know what? I don't have to basically force feed a pass or force feed a concept like they used to do with a lot of the run pass option things, that he needs to rely more on this run game to open up some more things. Because, the first thing when you hear about a lot, when you see what they did, what happened when they kept the run game going, you saw the play action game starting to open up a lot more. You saw those zone reads that Jalen Hurts had. They were more effective because the defensive end and linebackers had to actually buy that he's going to get the ball to run. So I think he's starting to finally come about that. I think he's getting a better feel for his players now, especially 8 weeks into it now, and it's going to be interesting to see how he does it for the rest of the season.
Chris Franklin joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN at C Franklin News on Twitter. Eagles beat writer. He also covers the 76ers for NJ.com. Chris, let's get to the defense, because I think a lot of people were surprised, not because they thought the Lions would be some great team, but I think that people have been wondering, okay, Gannon said he was going to change things. Well, when he went out there with an inactive Eric Wilson and then goes out there and says, hey, Alex Singleton, you're going to take a step back, it seemed like he really took to heart what he said to you guys during the week, which was, there are specific things I need to change.
Yeah, especially when Fletcher Cox talks, a lot of people listen. And I think Gannon took that to heart. I think he really, we've heard all the time that he still talks to the defensive players and try to get their input, but I think he really, really felt that. And the fact, I think Sirianni may have pushed him a little bit more to be aggressive. And I agree with the decision to basically bench Wilson and make him inactive, because he has been ineffective when he's been out there. He missed a lot of tackles. His coverage has been suspect at times too. So I think that was a good move. And TJ Edwards, I'm glad they inserted TJ Edwards a little bit more, because he hasn't had the knock on him was his coverage ability, but he's gotten a lot better in that one. He's a more sure tackler, and he doesn't allow those yards after contact. So I think that was the best way to go about it. And lo and behold, I think we saw a couple of double A gap blitzes and a safety blitz at times too. The aggressiveness that this defense showed that it has potential down the line. And hopefully he doesn't get back to the shell game, especially with Justin Herbert and everybody else, and that he feeds off it, just like Sirianni did with the offense running the ball. Hopefully he sticks with this one as well too, because this defense has the pieces to be in the. We've seen it when it's really going. It could be a top 12, top 10 type defense, but they have to do that, and everything goes with Jonathan Gannon. So he has to remain aggressive and not try to fall back to the soft shell cover 2 stuff that he's running before.
I agree 100%, because to me, it seems like when this defense is aggressive, they can get things done. You know, Josh Sweat had an amazing game. TJ Edwards was all over the place. But it's when they play this passive zone, they let the game come to them. Teams run all over them. So I'm just hoping that this is a sign of things to come, because, Chris, you go down the schedule, once you get past the Chargers, it's not like your competition on the offensive side is the elite, right? Aside from Dak Prescott with the Cowboys, it's not like you're facing tons of great quarterbacks week in and week out for the Eagles.
Wait, you're not fearing Terrell Heineke and everybody else?
No, I'm absolutely him and Daniel Jones. I have no fear of. Maybe Mike White a little bit, but
keep him. Yeah, Carl. All of a sudden, who thought the Jets would be that way with him? But yeah, the path is there for that defense to really improve. And I'm one of the guys who I came down hard on Gannon when he did that. I didn't believe he should be one of the ones that one and done. I thought he'd still need a little help. But this guy came in with a lot of credentials, highly regarded. He's a bright defensive mind. And I think he realizes now that, hey, he made a couple of changes and he needs to roll with the guys he has now. And so far, so good, this new look defense.
So, Chris, moving forward, should the Eagle fans have hope that this team can sustain what we saw on Sunday, or do we need to hold a wait and see?
I think you still need to do a wait and see for sure. I know it's going to be tempting, especially if the Eagles beat the Chargers next week. And look at the schedule. I know there may be a push toward the playoff push, and everybody's talking about. This team is nowhere near that, and it shouldn't be nowhere near that. This year is more about developing the players, making sure that you build that foundation for the next year, the next 2-3 years down the line, so that you can contend for the playoffs. They're not at that point right now. So I think the best takeaway you can do is just hope Jalen Hurts can continue to improve. You hope that Devonta Smith and some of these younger receivers build chemistry with them. And you hope the defensive pieces, the younger guys, are getting more playing time and more experience, so that when next year comes around, you're looking at the Eagles to be contenders for NFC East and not hoping you back into a seventh spot and then you're one and done. So that's the best way. That's the best outlook I'd probably say to look for.
Chris Franklin from NJ.com joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN at C Franklin News on Twitter. Chris, you also covered the 76ers, and before you came on, with no Joel Embiid playing tonight, he has a scheduled rest day. Doc Rivers is playing it down. The reports are out there from Ramona Shelburne that this was basically a scheduled rest because of all the games. Chris, I think the Sixers are being smart, because to me, I feel like you got 6 games in a 9-day stretch. You got to protect Embiid from himself. You have no chance of winning anything if you don't have Embiid out there.
Right. And then it's the Trailblazers, a team from the Western Conference that's not really going to matter if it comes down to, say, like a tiebreaker when it comes to seeding, so that doesn't matter there. Listen, Embiid's the focal point of this team right now. He has to be, with Ben Simmons being out. They have to rely on Embiid, and it makes no sense especially early on in the season, to really put him out there and continually wear and grind him because, hey, listen, we all know his injury history. And the last thing this team needs is for him to go down for an extended period of time because they don't have that other difference maker on that team right now besides Ben Simmons, and we all know what's going on with that. So they're doing the right thing. Just let him sit down, let him watch. He's still the leader of the team. He can still help out from the sidelines, and let him build, get some minutes for Andre Drummond, and go from there.
When you think about the Sixers, because of all this Ben Simmons stuff, obviously nobody has any idea what's going to happen. I mean, everybody has a speculative opinion about it, but how important is it for the Sixers to keep showing that they can win games without Ben to ensure that they don't get too far behind for whenever he comes back or they're able to trade him to improve the roster?
I think it's great for the Sixers point. I think it's great that they continue to have success from a leverage standpoint. Because if teams know that, hey, you know what, this guy, you guys need him, and you can do without it. Hey, it works out perfectly for him. I still think that the team, they also have to develop a lot of these young guys for that stretch run, especially those guys like Tyrese Maxey, Shake Milton, Furkan Korkmaz, those guys who have been taking turns playing the point. They need to develop those guys, especially in the second unit, because we look at last year in the playoffs, that second unit struggled at stretches where they were moving the ball, a lot of one-on-one sets, and it wasn't really flowing. So the more opportunities that those three guys have running the point and getting used to playing that, I think is going to be beneficial for them. And then as for Ben, maybe that forces Ben to say, hey, you know what? I better come back a little sooner because these guys are playing well. Maybe I should come back and get used to it and play in their hands. So whatever success they have now without him is just gravy on top of that mashed potatoes.
When you think about the situation with the Sixers, what do you think is more important for them? Do you think it's more important for them? Because at the end of the day, let's be realistic. In a city that loves the Eagles, but they also are very opinionated about the Sixers, it's Eagles and Sixers. Like that's the way the city is right now. How important is it for the Sixers to keep the fans there? Because they know that when Eagles season is done, they're going to be 100% focused on them.
I wouldn't put the Flyers past it too, because I think eventually they were a surprise for people too. But you're right; they have to make some sort of splash in this whole meantime because it's not a lot going on besides that, especially in that city going on. So I think they have to find relevance. They have to show that they're going to be contending. I don't mean just saying, "Hey, you're a 6th or 7th seed right now, and we're going to make the playoffs." They need to find a way to be among those top 4 teams, get the city excited, thinking, "Hey, you know what? We can make one more stretch run." Because if not, they may fall to the wayside pretty soon. And don't forget, you got the hot stove talk that's going to be starting up too. So it's going to be a busy time, and the Sixers need to make some moves and make some waves before they can finally get toned out.
Chris, my opinion with Ben Simmons has always been that I think that he doesn't get traded until middle of December because of the fact that it's around then that all those free agents who signed in the offseason, their contracts become solidified and they can be traded. And to me, by the time we get to mid-December, you're going to have a team. Maybe it is the Blazers. Maybe it is the Timberwolves. One of these teams that's maybe 10-20, 12-21, or maybe 15-15, whatever the record is. And they know they got to make a move. To me, that's when Simmons gets traded. When a team starts getting desperate, that's who picks up the phone and calls Morey.
See, I think it's more towards the actual deadline itself because I understand when it comes to that. But I think knowing Morey, he's going to try to want to hold out for the maximum amount of value that he can. And especially when it comes to, when we all seen it, when it comes to the chatter of trade deadline, what all the hoopla that goes around there, and then the pressure that the fan base has put on these front offices to make a move, I think that's when you'll think you'll get the most maximum value for that. I mean, sure, you can get a good deal in December, possibly. I mean, guys like playing tonight, McCollum or say Beal eventually comes up in Washington, something like that. Yeah, it'd be nice, but I think you'll probably get the best packages back towards that trade deadline. So I think if I'm Morey, I'm holding on till then, and then I'm making a deal if Ben still wants to leave out.
Chris, at the end of the day, and I think this is a crazy question, but I'm serious when I ask this. You cover the Eagles, you cover the Sixers. Which team is going to get back to a championship game first?
Oh, that's tough. You know what? I'm going to say I'll go with the Sixers, and I'll go with it this reason. The Eagles I still think Jalen Hurts is still a franchise type guy, but it's still going to be a couple of years. They still need more pieces on the offense. They still need a couple. I think they still need like a safety and a couple other linebackers and defensive end. When you look at the Sixers, they're still removed. Last year, they really, in my heart of hearts, I really believe they should have made the NBA Finals, and they still have most of this team back. And I really think that even if they deal Simmons or not, this team still has the potential to go further and still be in there. I mean, the East is still, to me, the East is a 14 league, is a 14 race, and I think they're still among that group that can really make a push. So I think right now, the Sixers are more that have a better shot to win a championship right now as opposed to the Eagles.
He's Chris Franklin. Give him a follow on Twitter at @CFranklinNews. Eagles beat writer, also covers the 76ers for NJ.com. Make sure you catch all the coverage over there. And, of course, the No Huddle podcast, him and Mike K got that each week for you as well. And he joined us right here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Chris, appreciate you jumping on, and safe travels home.
Hey, thanks, Josh. Always fun talking to you, man.
Of course, our conversation with Chris Franklin being brought to you, my friends, over at the FanDuel Sportsbook at Bally's Casino in Atlantic City. Bet all the action and style this season, football, basketball, at the state-of-the-art FanDuel Sportsbook just off the boardwalk at Bally's Atlantic City. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. We'll get back to you guys' messages on the other side. Text board 609-403-0973. The 97.3 ESPN mobile app is there for you. Thanks to First Bank of Seattle City. And we are live as always on YouTube and Twitter at 973 ESPN. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night.
It's Sixers basketball tonight on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the 76ers, Tom McGinnis, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
Makes a move down the lane and a two-hand jam.
The Sixers host the Blazers. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. Philadelphia 76ers basketball on your radio home of the Sixers in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN. South Jersey's play-by-play home for the 76ers. Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Josh Hennig back here, hanging out with you on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM. The 97.3 ESPN mobile app is there for you. Thanks to First Bank and CLC priority messaging through the app into the show with all your messages in just a bit on the Eagles, Sixers, and more. Text board is open, 609-403-0973, and we're live as always on YouTube and Twitter at 973 ESPN. Don't forget, tonight's the final game of NFL Week 8, and FanDuel Sportsbook wants you to get the most out of every game day. That's why they're giving everyone a $10 risk-free bet each week. All you have to do is make a same-game parlay bet with 3 legs or more, and if your bet doesn't win, FanDuel will pay you back up to $10. Offers like this are just one of the many reasons I love betting the NFL on FanDuel, the #1 rated sportsbook app in America. There's no feeling like nailing a same-game parlay bet. So lock in your bet today on FanDuel Sportsbook and get up to $10 back if your bet doesn't win. If you're new to FanDuel Sportsbook, sign up today with my promo code Hennig to also get a free risk-free bet up to $1,000. That's promo code Hennig to get your risk-free bets exclusively with FanDuel Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older to play and present in New Jersey. Refund issued as non-withdrawable site credit expires in 7 days. Max refund $10. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Same game parlay available for multiple sports in all states on mobile or web. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. And when you look at tonight's game with FanDuel Sportsbook, there's one thing we know for sure. The Chiefs never cover the spread. Now, I'm not saying they can't do it tonight, but right now you're sitting at 10.5. I feel like that is something you want to stay completely away from. The better bet for your same game parlay are these ideas I got for you right now, okay? Number one, I think it's very easy to say that Travis Kelce probably scores a touchdown tonight, all right? The Giants have good corners, but they don't have great linebackers. So I feel like Kelce could take advantage of those guys in the middle of the field in the red zone. The other player that I'm looking at tonight to try to ride him a little bit, because we know that the Chiefs defense has been really porous, right? They are a team that can be had. Daniel Jones over 253 passing yards looks really good. for a couple reasons. One, because like I said, the Chiefs don't have a very good defense. But number two, you look at Daniel Jones's games this year. He only has 2 games that are significantly under that number. The Cowboys game from week 10, which he played horrible in. And then last week's game where he had 203 yards. But remember, they ran the ball a lot in that game. He had 69% completion percentage. For the rest of the year, Daniel Jones has chucked it a lot. All right. He's not throwing a lot of touchdown passes, but he has been a bit of a chucker. 267 yards, 266, 402. So I think he can take advantage of this defense a little bit. I think that the Chiefs are to be had a little bit. So I'm feeling the Daniel Jones 253. That's one option for you. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes over 302 because he is Pat Mahomes. That's another direction you can go in. Another thing I think is interesting is that if you feel the Daniel Jones thing is too high of a number, here's one more idea for you. Because it is a same game parlay. Just say Daniel Jones goes over 200 yards. All right. The value is plus 265 over at FanDuel Sportsbook. So Kelsey, anytime touchdown scorer. Patrick Mahomes, 302 passing yards over. And Daniel Jones over 200 yards. A $10 wager gets you back 26 on the win, the 36 overall with FanDuel Sportsbook. Promo code Hennig. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, some of your messages here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. By the way, before we get to that Sixers news that just came out, Tobias Harris will not play tonight due to health and safety protocols. Furkan Korkmaz will replace Harris. So no Tobias Harris, no Joel Embiid. So that's looking more and more potentially like a Sixers loss tonight, which is not the end of the world because if you're going to lose to a team, you might as well lose to a team in the Western Conference and not the Eastern Conference. And that spread has already flipped to now Trailblazers minus 2.5 is the current number on that. I don't want to read too much into Tobias Harris with health and safety protocols, but it should be noted that Harris was out there warming up at one point. But I'm going to assume that this is a contact tracing situation. Typically, when they say health and safety protocols, it's not because of a positive test. All right. It's not one and the same. So there's a possibility that you have a guy in Tobias Harris who is out for contact tracing because he was near someone who tested positive. All right. Now, remember, the Sixers, as I mentioned earlier, have 6 games in 9 days. So no Harris and no Embiid tonight. Potentially no Harris on Wednesday or Thursday, depending on the situation. Now, we'll know more in the next 12 to 24 hours, according to Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN. But we know for sure he's out tonight. I think we'll know more tomorrow and Wednesday about his long-term status. Now, obviously, if he tested positive, that's one scenario. But if he's just in close contact with somebody, as long as he has negative test, he can be back Wednesday or Thursday. So no Embiid, no Harris tonight for the Sixers. You have Drummond, Korkmaz, along with Maxey, Danny Green, and I'm assuming it's Seth Curry is the starting lineup. That seems like a very small lineup, though. I'm gonna have to double check and see if somebody actually has posted the full Sixers lineup tonight because it doesn't sound right to me. I feel like they would have to have somebody else out there. No, that's the lineup the Sixers just posted. I see it right here. Danny Green, Korkmaz, Drummond, Seth Curry, Maxey. Talk about a small ball with a big man in the middle. That seems like a little bit of a now, maybe it's something the Sixers realized that they didn't want to start Niang, I guess. I don't know. But watch this game tonight and see how that goes. Because if that backfires on them easily, Doc might have to call a quick timeout early in the game. A couple messages to get to, as I mentioned earlier, of course, over on the 97.3 ESPN YouTube channel. Re223 says Milton Williams showed up. Milton had a great game. So did Teron Jackson. So did a lot of the defensive line. But I think part of the reason why those guys showed up on Sunday's win is because of the fact that Jonathan Gannon let those guys hunt. He let those guys go after the quarterback. There are so many times this year that these guys have been playing out of position. They've been asking Josh Sweat to play on the inside instead of consistently on the outside. They've asked Fletcher Cox to basically be a guy who absorbs tackles, let the linebackers go out and get tackles instead. I think that Jonathan Gannon finally is listening to his players. Heard Chris Franklin say that Gannon takes input from the players. So I feel like this is a situation where Gannon said, I'm going to let these guys hunt. I'm going to let these guys be aggressive. I'm going to let these guys go get the Lions. Now, will he do that next week against Justin Herbert and the Chargers? We'll have to wait and see. But at least for this week, we know they're capable of doing this. We saw them do this against Atlanta. We saw them again against San Francisco. Remember, San Francisco only scored 17 points against the Eagles. Jonathan Gannon had them hunting in that game. He had them hunting in this game. When he lets the guys go out there and be the predators instead of being passive and letting the game come to them, the defense tends to have good games. And Milton and Josh Sweat, they both had very good games yesterday. I think it is in part because Gannon is no longer holding them back. When Gannon holds these guys back, that's when the Eagles get sliced and diced by these offenses. But when he lets them go out and go after people, they seem to play a lot better. Text board is open, 609-403-0973. Dan from EHC says, overreaction Monday, but I'm a Phillies fan. Every day is overreaction day. Listen, Dan, there's nothing wrong with being an overreactor one way or the other, because if you see something and you feel strongly about it, there's nothing wrong with coming out and saying it. If you want to say that I was an overreactor because I was ripping Sirianni week in and week out for some of his decision-making, that's fine. I'm not going to sit here and argue with you about it. If you feel like that it's an overreaction to say that the Eagles had a great win yesterday, that's fine. If you think it's overreaction on anything I'm talking about today, that's fine. Being a fan, I don't mind the overreaction to NEHT. What I mind is the people who are all of a sudden quiet after ripping this team. Those are the people that I think are a little bit shady. A little bit, we use the term when it comes to analyzing sports lines and bets and odds and everything that the line smells. Well, the silence smells. People were hating on Jalen Hurts. They were hating on Sirianni. They were hating on Gannon for weeks. Now, all of a sudden, they play well. Instead of being like me and say, this is what they did well. This is what they can keep doing. This is great. This is a positive. They go quiet. Because some people, they're just too afraid to admit they're wrong. I'm not afraid of admitting I'm wrong. I thought the Lions were going to win the game because I had no confidence in Sirianni or Gannon. Now Sirianni and Gannon showed me they can do something. Now I have to reconsider moving forward. And as of right now, on Monday, November 1st, I'm not picking it right now. I'm leaning toward the Eagles to beat the Chargers. All right, coming up tonight on 97.3 ESPN FM, we will have Sixers versus Blazers coming up at the top of the hour, followed by Monday Football, Giants and Chiefs. Don't forget tomorrow, Mike Gill and the Sports Bash back at 2 p.m. here on 97.3 ESPN. I'll be on at 6 p.m. with Game Night. And tomorrow night, Flyers back in action. Sixers tonight, Flyers tomorrow, Eagles this Sunday. And, of course, all the coverage you need over at 97.3 ESPN.com, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle City. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night. I'll catch you tomorrow.